possession or having care, control, or charge over a person or a child comes with certain responsibilities and rights. When your rights to this child or person are tampered with temporarily or permanently, some criminal liabilities may be triggered because of such interference by that other person. Today on Law Express, we discuss kidnapping, abduction, and child stealing. My name is Noella Seydu. Do stay with us. This is Law Express.
Hanifa Yaya is a seasoned private legal practitioner whose passion extends beyond the courtroom. Outside of her legal endeavors, she finds joy in swimming, exploring new destinations through travel, and immersing herself in the beauty of nature. Richard Odum-Mensah is a private legal practitioner. In his leisure time, he enjoys playing lawn tennis. She is a private legal practitioner and a consistent member of our 3-lawyer panel on the show every week. She also doubles as the host of the show. She likes to play tennis and read.
So today our discussion is focusing on 3 aspects of our criminal law: kidnapping, abduction, and child stealing. Now, these aspects of our criminal law deals with situations where someone, either a child, an adult, whether a male or female, is held against his will. I mean, there are situations where somebody is held or imprisoned, not by Ghana Prison Service, but by an individual against his will. Or there are situations where someone who is entitled to have custody or charge of a person is deprived of that right. And so we are very concerned about some of these issues. Sometimes, last time there was a situation where a child who has been forced to marry an elderly person, he doesn't like the situation, but has been deprived of his right to go away. That is an aspect of the law that we are talking about. Sometimes somebody can also imprison somebody for other purposes, like maybe rape or defilement. And so the law is against such situations, and our criminal law has made it an offense. And so I'm looking at 3 aspects: kidnapping, abduction, and child stealing.
So let's start with kidnapping.
Perfect.
And the Act, the Criminal and Other Offences Act, contains provisions for all these offences that my learned colleague talked about. Kidnapping is where a person is imprisoned or taken out of the jurisdiction without his consent. So out of the jurisdiction of the court would ordinarily means that if you take the person outside Ghana without the person's consent, without any legal or lawful authority.
So you're not deporting the person within our immigration laws, but you just bundle the person out?
Yes, you bundle the person out without the court saying, like you said, the immigration. If the court orders that somebody should be deported, I can't imagine a situation where a citizen will be authorized by the court to be taken outside the jurisdiction. See, that is why this is a very important offense. Offense, yes.
I agree with what you've just said, but some components or elements of kidnapping pop out to me. I read the definition more to concern adults because it talks about consent, and a child cannot be expected to be consenting to be shipped abroad on their own because they are under somebody's charge.
Exactly.
So we're looking at a situation where the person is unlawfully imprisoned, and normally in law when you talk about imprisonment, it's not just the jails or police cells or the prison institution. If you put somebody in a space where the person cannot come out freely, that is imprisonment.
Absolutely.
Now, when you unlawfully withhold that person within the sense of imprisonment as the act speculates, then in addition, you take the person out of the borders of Ghana.
Yes.
So you capture somebody, you lock the person up in the room,
Yes.
and in the middle of the night, maybe you sedate the person, tie the person up, blindfold the person, or any other way you can forcefully, without the person accepting, be taken out of the boundaries of Ghana. So to Togo, that suffices. For as long as our courts cannot make pronouncements in the space you have now introduced that person to, then it qualifies as kidnapping.
Yes.
To add to that, so apart from taking the person outside the jurisdiction, you can also be charged for kidnapping when, even though the person is within the country or jurisdiction, you still deprive the person of his right to move out, or you imprison the person within a jurisdiction in a situation where the person cannot apply to the court to obtain his liberty, or in a situation where a person who is entitled to have custody or in charge of that person is deprived of the right to see or get access to that person, you can still be charged for
We need
kidnapping.
to really unpack what you've just given us, because there are too many instances locked therein.
Yes.
I think we should pick them one after the other. So the first one is where you have unlawfully imprisoned the person in the sense that I earlier defined, within the jurisdiction of Ghana. So you pick up somebody from his or her home and you take the person to some place and hold the person without their consent in a manner that they can't freely walk out, and they are restricted.
Yep.
Their liberty is effectively taken from them. And it should be in a manner that prevents the other person from applying to a court for release.
Yes.
That could speak to police situations, right?
Yes.
So before we even get to the police situation, I think we need to really break it down
More.
more. It still looks abstract.
Yeah.
The simplest way, as I can see it, is if I come to your house willingly, and then we have lunch, we have dinner, we watch a movie, I am tired, I want to go home, and then I open the door and the door is locked. And you or somebody under your instruction or some other third party has come and locked me or us in, and I'm not able to go out. It looks very simple. It's a very common occurrence, but that is kidnapping. Unless it is proven that the door was locked accidentally and somebody is standing outside and will open it like within a few minutes.
Yeah.
But if it drags and it's become very apparent that somebody has intentionally done this to keep me from going home when I feel like going home.
Especially where you've expressly requested that
To
you
go
should be
home.
freed.
And then if I start to feel like I'm in danger and I'm not in the position to call for help from police. So for example,
Or even
you've
from
taken
the
my phone,
neighbors.
taking my phone again, and I can't call anyone from outside and scream for help. That is kidnapping.
I mean, so this talks about situations of your first example, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship,
Yes.
where the opposite side visits you and says, I want to go. And he says, I will not let you go.
Yes.
And you lock the door. You could be in line to be charged for
Borderline
kidnapping.
yes.
But once you keep the person there, assuming she still has her phone, at that point, does it still amount to kidnapping?
But once you have deprived the person of his liberty, you have clearly confined the person in an area that he cannot move, and you are depriving other persons who are entitled
access
to
to the
access to that
person.
person, that can clearly be kidnapping. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a minute or whether it's a whole day or even 30 minutes. Once that situation is created where the person is in prison and you deny other people from having access to that person.
How about the police? So it doesn't have to be our Ghana Police Service. Any institution knock on your doors at dawn, pick you up Rambo style, without telling your household where they are taking you, take you to any facility cells of their choice. They don't allow you access to a lawyer. They keep you, no caution statement, nothing, and you're just somewhere. Maybe you don't know which region you find yourself, so your family can access you, you can call for help, you can get a lawyer to speak for you, and you are in there. That's unlawful.
This picture you have painted will seem like kidnapping because you've been deprived of your freedom. You have been taken from your comfortable home and taken to a place in a manner that really, really puts you in fear for your life. There's so many things that come into play with that. If the picture is turned the other way, and then we see that it's law enforcement, for instance, they have a warrant. For instance, there's a court order they are enforcing. There's so many things, at the back of it. So if we unpack it and we see that there's no warrant, there's no court order, there is no reasonable belief that you have committed an offense, then it goes to other areas of the law. Unlawful arrest.
False imprisonment.
False imprisonment.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I'm looking at even within the context of a warrant, an active warrant against you, we know the procedure for arrest. Arrest can be unlawful, even from law enforcement.
Yes.
You need to be told what you've done.
No question about that.
You need to be told about your rights, your right to a lawyer, and where you are being taken.
And
so
why?
That, exactly, so that if you want to apply to a court for your release, you have the option. I add this because if the police picks you up and they don't say anything to you and they blindfold you and carry you, handcuff you, take you into custody, even outside the area you live, your family members will not expect, if you live at East Legon, they won't expect you to probably be at Ofako police station. They will expect you to be around the East Legon police station, even if they have suspicion that you were picked up by the police. Or at worst, they would think maybe you are the CID headquarters. But if you are blindfolded and they don't tell them anything, maybe they are in plain cloth, nobody even knows this is law enforcement. That's an unlawful arrest.
But that's an unlawful arrest. But
Yes.
I mean, whether
it's kidnapping
is another
is
issue.
where-
To me, I would say it's kidnapping.
where we are-
to
we
the
are not-
extent that
yeah.
you are law enforcement, you come in plain clothing, you pick up somebody, you don't tell anybody where you're going. Because for a passerby or somebody observing, how do you even know these are police officers? You are in plain clothing. Now, you carry, even if you were in police clothing, you carry the person wherever you want. You do not communicate to the person. The person at that point has been deprived of their liberty in a manner that they cannot apply to a court for their release. And in a manner that you are preventing the discovery of that person by people who ordinarily would have access, like a spouse,
Yes.
a child.
Child, family member, friends.
Exactly.
Anybody who wants to.
And this is why we have the habeas corpus application. But I would say that this is a kidnapping by law enforcement officers because it was unlawful.
Well,
Because the fact that you have the law on your side doesn't mean all your actions are covered.
of course, sometimes they abuse and go beyond their power.
Yes.
But then,
And they are-
in this case, it's the police who's going to, you are going to report the case of kidnapping, which is a crime, for them to go investigate them.
Yeah, but we
Who is the police who came and kidnapped you in the first place?
Exactly. The police can kidnap you, just as the police can harm you in a way that you sue the institution.
Yeah, but
They are doing that in the course of their duty, but it doesn't mean that they haven't breached the law in trying to perform their duty.
more or less, I mean, that case of unlawful arrest, or case of, yes, unlawful arrest would suffice here.
As we discussed, my learned colleague discussed earlier, another aspect of an offense which deprives a person's
Liberty.
from their liberty, rights enshrined in the Constitution, is abduction. Now, with abduction, if you look at the definition of abduction in the Act, it seems to be age-specific.
Yeah.
It says that abduction, whoever is guilty of an abduction of a child under 18 years is guilty of misdemeanor. Then it says that a person is guilty of abduction of a child who with intent to deprive any person entitled to possession or control of the child, or with intent to cause the child to be carnally known or uncarnally known by any person. This means that it appears with kidnapping, the focus is on adults, because it says
with the ability to consent.
To give consent.
Yes.
Now, with the child, we all know that the child cannot consent to a crime being committed or harm being done to the child. So, and this one is very interesting because it seems to be targeted at those who will snatch a child with the intention to have carnal or uncarnal knowledge.
Okay.
I guess.
So some things pop up to me, once again by way of the elements. First, she mentioned the issue of the age. When it comes to abduction, the person must be 18 years, under 18 years. Yeah. Meaning a person 18 and above, then you fall under the scope of kidnapping. And it also talks about custody. So somebody should have possession of this child. Somebody should have control of this child or be in charge of the affairs of the child. It speaks to deprivation. So this person that has this right over this child is deprived from that control or that duty or obligation to the child for the purposes you talked about.
Yes.
So you want to use the person for a sexual purpose. That's the child. Yes. And natural and unnatural carnal knowledge. I don't know if we want to go into it now.
We have to go into it.
Well, I think just recently the Supreme Court decision which talks about
unnatural carnal knowledge, reinforcing
the offense,
it.
Yes, the offense being constitutional.
Yeah, and before you continue, let me just chip in that this then means that if you are the lawful guardian or custodian of the child, you cannot abduct the child.
No.
Yes.
So it's
if your child runs off to a friend's house and refuses to come, you can go, your child that you have custody or you're a guardian of, you can go to that child and Rambo style pick the child and bring the child home. And nobody can accuse you of this particular offense.
No, not at all.
Great.
So I just want to emphasize on the intention.
Yes.
Here, clearly, the law has given the specific intention for which the offense of abduction will be made up. When you deprive the custodian or the guardian.
So that should be your plan, your intention.
Your intention is to have carnal or natural carnal knowledge. That is sex. Now, I like the way they talk about carnal and unnatural carnal knowledge, in the sense that, in this case, we are talking about both male and female child. Instead of the female child, which is common, where you see somebody, the offense of defilement, where you...
Not necessarily male or female. It depends on where the offense is being...
Yes. But
the attack is being done.
But the point I want to make is that unnatural carnal knowledge can happen to
both
male and female.
Yes.
And so when you abduct or you pick up a child, whether male or female, with the intent of having a carnal means that naturally a man and a woman, I don't want to say where we have the manhood of a man, the penis entering into the vagina of a woman, that's the natural carnal.
Yes. Sexual intercourse.
Yes. So any other kind of penetration that is not in the manner that you have defined becomes unnatural carnal knowledge.
And
of a child under 18.
Yeah.
And nowadays there are so many ways of having unnatural carnal knowledge. And so all of this, when you detain a child against the child's instructions or will,
against the custodian
or the guardian or the parents' will, with the specific intent of having a form of sexual relationship, or
with the intention to deprive this guardian or parents that access to the child, or entitlement to possession.
So here again I have a thought. So it's like going to school and picking the children from school when you are not your own child, though. When your other spouse...
You don't have custody. You know.
When the other spouse has custody, you don't go unless it is in line with access provisions as
and you
agreed.
have prior approval from
As
the
agreed
one
or
with
as
custody.
Exactly.
I think we need to rehash this one.
This is very, very important.
Yes. So, for instance, this comes to play in situations of divorce.
Yes.
The couple have broken up. The child or the children were given to one of the parents as a sole custodian. So let's say the father wins sole custody of the kids.
Yeah.
And for some reason you feel like you're not getting enough access. You can show up to the kids' school or the kids' church or anywhere else the kid goes to. And you know, this is your child. The kids would definitely acknowledge you. They've seen their mom. You can just say, well, I miss them so much, and take them home, to your home, without any prior agreement or arrangement with the father. You'll be guilty of abduction. So I see that these are all related: kidnapping, abduction, and child stealing.
Yeah.
But the age of the child determines it.
Yes.
So if it's child stealing, you're under 14. If it's
abduction,
you're under 18.
Kidnapping,
for adults. But there is another aspect we need to introduce.
Yes.
Even under abduction.
Yes.
Which
is the one we have, dovetailed into.
Yes.
Which is to unlawfully take the child from the lawful possession, care, or charge of any person, or to detain the child and prevent the child from returning to the lawful possession or care of any person. So the examples we've given, even if you have access to the child, the child comes to you and the child now wants to go back to the lawful custodian or guardian, and you prevent that child from going back, you are guilty of.
So that's also, once again, comes to play in the issues of divorce and custody.
Yes, or separation.
So one partner has custody, the other partner has access. You arrange that every weekend the child will come to you probably Friday and return Sunday to prepare for school on Monday. Then it's Monday, you still haven't returned the child. And your ideas or your intention is to deprive the other parent from exercising the control and possession that they usually would.
Yeah.
So that becomes another situation of abduction.
Yes. It can also be a relative, an auntie, a grandmother. Not too long ago, a grandmother called me very distraught that her daughter has passed on and the children are in the custody of their biological father.
Yeah.
But because she's a mother and she thinks that the children should be
with her.
With her. And she's very, very distraught, very upset that she thought that the man will not be in the position to give the children the care that the children deserve. So the children should be brought to her. And I said, Mom, I like a good fight, but this fight, we cannot fight it. The law is clear. In the absence of one parent, it's the other parent that takes charge. Naturally, there's no contest. So if you want the children, because she's afraid that she says, she can't reach the children. Yes, she can't reach them. The man has taken their phones.
She has to negotiate.
So I said, be nice to the guy. Call him. Let the pastor go and beg. Or a priest. You have to re-establish relations with this man.
Offload your problem on the pastor.
And make him like you enough to give you access to the children. You know. So in these instances, if the grandmother goes and says that, I have lawful rights to see my grandchildren, and she goes to then take these children and bring them to her house and don't allow them to return to their father. It's clearly
we have more to discuss around abduction.
Yes.
Because we still haven't covered the special purpose permission situation, where you've given your kid to somebody for a particular reason, not for others.
Yes.
You give your child to a teacher to take the child for an excursion. You don't expect the child to wind up in the teacher's house. But before we get there, we sampled people's opinion on the topic.
Okay.
Let's take a listen and we add on to our conversation.
Okay.
This is Law Express.
So when you talk about abduction, it's more or less like saying taking someone forcefully or deceitfully without their will. So it's more or less like taking someone without their permission, without their knowledge that, oh, you are taking them from wherever they are. Yeah, that's what abduction means.
When you talk about child stealing, you're talking about the unlawful act of taking a minor away from the original parent. And I know that there are various forms of it. We can have someone just taking the child. The person is not related to the child, but the person is just taking the child away, and it's unlawful. We have something like parental stealing, and that you can talk about another parent, trying to take another person's child without the consent of the other parent. So when you talk about child stealing, you are basically talking about the unlawful manner or unlawful process by which people take away minors away from their original parents.
An abduction is when somebody is kidnapped. I mean, it is a word that is used interchangeably. You can use abduction or kidnapping. It's the same thing. And child stealing is abducting a child. Do you understand? Abducting a child. Yeah, that's child stealing. When you take a child from their parents and then maybe for bad intentions, for money or something.
I understand adoption as stealing or kidnapping. Why do I say so? Usually when we watch movies or when we hear that someone has been adopted, it literally means that someone has been kidnapped or someone has been stolen. And adoption comes in various forms. We can say that we have child adoption where children are being kidnapped. We even have adults, even drivers who drive cars can be adopted.
So for where I am from, Ghana, I would say child stealing is not that common. I don't really see that. But with the help of the media, I sometimes notice that some people get missing, and I don't know what's actually causing that. But the media is helping us to get those who are missing. So I think some TV stations are doing that to help the missing children find their parents and all that, and that's a good initiative.
So I'm very impressed with the comments of the viewers. Clearly, they have the idea about.
They have a sense of it, yeah.
Abduction, kidnapping, and child stealing, and so clearly they understand that when you hold somebody against his right or deprive somebody who has custody of the child access to that person, that can fall within abduction or kidnapping or child stealing. I think somebody talk about child missing. I think in our society, we see a lot of these things. We see announcements.
Yeah, every now and then, missing person, yes. Missing child.
Yeah. Sometimes when an adult can be missing.
Yes.
And so sometimes it could be an error of abduction or kidnapping where somebody is keeping the child against the child's will or depriving the parents access to that child. And so probably when we find that child that has been missing in somebody's home, clearly that can be abduction or child stealing.
Well, it will depend on the circumstances.
Of course.
If your neighbor's child wanders into your home and in a spirit of communal responsibility, you think that, oh, I know this kid, she comes around to play with my kids every now and then, and the mother knows that this is one of the homes she comes to, and you entertain this child, get the child to be cleaned up, fed, and she's snug there watching TV, and you come and then accuse the person of abducting the child, that would be a bit reaching up the shelf, right?
Yes, I was going to say that, as responsible adults, when somebody's child strays into your house and you know their parents, you would want to let the parents know that the child is with you.
Yeah.
So that panic situation doesn't come up, that where is she, where is the child, and then, to put those alarm bells going.
So quickly, let's talk about the detention and the issue of belief. Some people can be under the erroneous belief that they actually have custody or they have the power to take care of the child. Once again, rights. Yes, once again to the communal situation.
Yes.
So grandma thinks that she has equal rights with parents.
Yes.
So when the kids come to grandma, she decides that, look, your parents are always busy. I'm not releasing you again. And then the parents keep coming. They keep literally fighting their own parents to get their child. That can become an instance of abduction.
As you said, It's intent, isn't it?
Yeah.
If your mother takes your child and you go with your husband to say, Mommy, we want the child to come back home.
We miss her.
You just like the controversies. And then the grandma says, oh,
I'm
you
lonely.
leave them, you don't even take, I can take better care of them. Look at you yourself. I did a good job with you, didn't I? I can do same for
They
your
are my
child.
blood.
Do you see abduction in this situation?
It's
Noella?
not abduction to the extent that she believes that she has rights to these children because of the relationship. And also because she's here negotiating with the parents, right? But if, let's look at it this way, the child goes to school, grandma goes there with candies, picks the child up, oh, it's your birthday, takes the child home. Doesn't tell parents. Parents eventually find out that Kwame is with grandma, far away at another locality. It is not convenient to be dropping kid off at school. Grandma is insisting that I can even change the kid's school to my neighborhood so I can better provide for the child.
Will this be the maternal grandma or the paternal grandma?
Could be any, either of them.
If it's maternal, it's fine. We have a
parents
way.
say that we, as the people in charge of our child, okay, you have done well. Thank you for raising us. We don't want you to raise a second generation. We want to also have a chance at raising our own children because that's why we had them. And we're able. Grandma, thank you, but let the child come home. Then you say no. They come a few times, you tell your security not to open the gates.
That's an
abduction.
interesting.
And Kwabena locks the gate anytime parents come. Grandma goes to school to drop off, sits around the car park till kid closes from school. This is abduction.
This is abduction.
So the relationship and the intention that, oh, I'm lonely, you are intending to deprive the kids for your benefit.
That's abduction.
Because you want to place your need for the company of the child above the kid's parents' right to raise their kid.
Yes.
Another issue that comes up with this child stealing abduction, which you just commented on, was sometimes there are issues between married couples, and a court is here to decide custody, who should have custody.
So nobody wants to lose grounds.
Yes, the man thinks I'm in a better position.
I'm the father. I
I'm
bring the
father,
money.
so I should have custody. The woman thinks, of course, naturally.
I care for the kids. They should be with me, and they are young. They
And
need their
sometimes
mother.
we have situations where the man picks up the child, maybe over weekend. He's supposed to, or on vacation, and he's supposed to return the child or the children to the woman, and he says, no, I've changed their school, I'm taking them.
Yeah, I'm about to marry. They'll get a new mom.
Yes, and there are situations when a court is here to make a final
determination,
determination of custody. So this is where the situation comes now. Can you say that a man or a woman who
You've
has
abducted your child.
who has a right to custody or who has a right to take care of their child, can we say that that is when the court is here to make a
I
determination?
think we should look at it this way. At the point where the issue came up or comes up, who would have had custody of the children?
Where was the child ordinarily
Where was the
living?
child before the man now comes to grab?
Assuming the child was with the father throughout, and you know that this is their primary place of abode, and the mother comes for the kids. At that point, you, by function of the living arrangement, have custody.
Well, but the court is here to make formal declaration. If, assuming you are counsel for such a person,
Yes.
your argument would be that, well, a court is here to make a determination. You also have a right, or you have a belief that you have a right to have
Well,
access
at
to
the
the
risk
children.
of taking this thing into the legal rabbit hole, okay, we all know that when kids are very young, they need their mother. They need to be with their mother, unless with exceptional. And the
not
courts
always the
usually,
case.
the courts usually will let a mom have these kids, unless the mother was not the one who was the primary caregiver from the word go. So you see, the best interest of the child comes in.
You stole my thoughts.
That's what you were going to say. I read your mind.
Sometimes the best interest to be with a man.
Yes, that is
Best
fair.
interest.
Sometimes.
It's best
Yeah.
interest of the child.
Best interest.
If the mother is the one who probably left the matrimonial home, and the school that the children attend is in that neighborhood, the father is up and doing. When even the wife was in the household living with him, he was
a
the
primary
one
caregiver.
who baths them, takes them to school, feeds them. What business does the mother have in trying to pick these kids and uproot them from where they are comfortable and move them from their everyday, life?
In the absence of any concerns
Exactly.
about abuse,
Yes.
in the absence of that, we look at the best interest principle, always. So in as much as counsel, we need to do our lawyering and
When it comes
defend
to
our,
kids,
our
becomes
clients.
a
When it
different,
comes to the
combo.
children, and the law will look at that. It may be the man, eventually if you don't agree and you end up in court, it may be the man who has had custody of the children, but the court will look at how long have the children been with the parent at the time before you are now coming to take them, because the children need to be stable.
So it is really a tarnished situations when it comes to parents, man, woman who are
And other
separated
relatives
or who are going
to
through
that,
divorce and all those.
because
It
we
becomes
haven't
a very
even come
difficult-
to the part where you are the guardian, legal guardian of the child, whether at custom or in law.
By law.
If you say, okay, because you live in Accra and I want my kid to go to school in Accra, I'm giving you guardianship, okay, and then you go to court, apply for guardianship, and you think that because you are the parent, you can just show up and pick the child without the consent of this new guardian, you would have actually effectively abducted your own child.
It's possible.
Because you need to have a conversation.
Or
There should
stolen
be
your
some
own child.
consent
Yes.
from the one in charge, because you're depriving somebody who has control over the child within that space from that. But you see, the defense here will be, as a parent, that you believed that you still had control, care, and all of that. So that's where the lines come in. But was your intention to deprive this guardian of the control that you had expressly granted to the person? That's where the
I
conversation
think there are
comes.
also more serious situations where these abductions would take place outside the familial
Yeah,
tug
relationship.
of war.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you now go and promise somebody who doesn't have children that you can provide a child for the purposes of adoption, for example, and therefore you see somebody's beautiful baby and then you go and take this child, and then with the intent that you will now sell the child to another person for the purposes of that person now acquiring adoptive rights of the child. You may be family, you may not be family, but these are very, very serious situations where, you know, such incidents happen. And the
I think you're
children
linking
get
to child stealing. And there's
Yes.
a reason why all of these are all
They dovetail
interconnected.
into each other, yes.
Because when we started talking about kidnapping, before we
Yes.
knew we're in abduction.
Yes.
And now we're
Yes.
introducing child stealing.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
it's mostly because of the function of the age.
Yes.
It's time to go for another break. When we come back, we pick it up from where we stopped. Don't go away.
So now we dovetail to discuss child stealing. And here the main point is we are looking at the age of, or persons under the age of 14 years. We are looking at a situation where someone steals or detains someone who is less than 14 years with the intention of depriving the parent or somebody, the legal guardian or somebody who has custody
yeah.
of that person. Once you do that, the offense of child stealing comes on board. Again, here the difference again is with the issue of abduction, the law made an intention of carnally or getting to have some form of sexual intercourse
As one of the intentions. But here it's not about that.
It is not about that. Once you detain a child, a person who's less than 14 years, with the intention of depriving
The possession
of
The
the legal
person in-
guardian or
yeah, with-
parent.
in
And also
control.
with the intent to cause bodily harm.
Okay, that's another.
So here the harm has been generalized. It could be sexual, but it looks like under abduction the focus is on carnal or carnal knowledge.
Yeah.
But under child stealing it says with the intention to cause bodily
So,
harm.
well, just harm. So it could be any kind of harm.
On the
it
child.
could be emotional
Yes.
harm,
Yes.
psychological. It could be any kind of harm. And also, there's also the intention to steal anything from the person, on the person's body, or off the person's body. So, and that's why I think the harm plays a good role in that you can decide to take certain body parts from the person.
Yes.
It could cover the situation where you want to steal maybe some jewelry of the person. You know, those who have really high-end jewelry on their babies or kids.
People do that.
You can steal the child, detain the child to rob the child of those things. And I notice here, consent doesn't come in at all. It doesn't, it's of no relevance.
The child cannot give consent.
So you can say this child agreed to come with me so that I can rob him or her of the jewelry. In fact, if that child even took them off and gave to
handed
you,
it over,
it still wouldn't absolve you of this liability.
So all these are intentions which either of them can suffice to create this offense of child stealing. So that the earlier discussions we're having, a child voluntarily comes to your house and the parents are looking for him, and you are aware the parents are looking for him, and you, with the intention of detaining the child or depriving the parents of having access to the child, you don't disclose. We could also look at, and the child is under 14 years, we could be charging you for child stealing. So that is where the line may also.
Another thing that jumps at me is that it doesn't have to be a stranger. No. So it could be somebody that this child is familiar with, which normally happens with child abductions and the likes. It's normally somebody known, especially where it wasn't a forceful, taking away of the child. But with child stealing, you can actually cajole the child, persuade the child, encourage the child to come along with you.
Bribe the child with candy or
anything
sweets or
like.
phone or a tablet or whatever. And it's interesting that the law is very clear that for the purposes of this section, all that needs to be shown is that the one who has taken the child has done that from the one who has possession or custody. All you need to prove is that you are not the legal guardian, you are not the legal custodian, you have taken the child under 14 years, you are keeping the child, taking the child's jewelry or whatever the child has, or harming with the intention to harm the child.
So if you go to pick a child from their school, no matter your intention, you claim somebody's child is sick at school, then you just pick the child without the consent of teachers, for instance. Because at that point, when a kid goes to school, parents consent that they should be under the care of the teachers of the school. But for instance, if the teacher now says we're going for an excursion at the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, and then this kid winds up at Accra Makola Market with probably somebody else, with a sister of the teacher, for instance. How does this work?
Yes, I mean, sometimes you see a child wandering about, clearly cannot know where he's going or missing, and you keep the child, or just to find who the parents are, or you make a report or whatever. Here your intention is not to deprive the parents, you're only trying to help the child. As you're saying, maybe the child is sick, and I mean you had only outdoor tools available to
if the teacher can assist, that's different. But where somebody who has no business doing that now has the child,
what is the intention?
How did the person get that? Who consented to this?
Explain that.
Because if the teacher consented to the school nurse doing that, yes, at that point, the one who could consent was the teacher. But if you are just another parent who walks in there and sees this child sick and without talking to the institution decides to be a good Samaritan, you could be in trouble for trying to help. This is where helping can hurt.
Yes.
We have some questions which we could give attention to, or which we are required to give some attention to the best of our ability. Then we can continue, because we still haven't exhausted the point about child stealing. We haven't talked about other professionals. For instance, if you take your child to the hospital and all the other things that could come up. But let's attempt the questions first.
My grandchild has a medical condition which has delayed her growth. Her mother leaves her alone when she goes to work without any care. I went to visit one afternoon and found the child in a very bad state. dirty and hungry. As her grandmother, I felt responsible for her and I was angry at her parents' neglect. I took the kid home and never said anything to her parents. They have reported a child missing but have not called me or come to my house. Am I guilty of child stealing or abduction?
So as we have been discussing this question, it's as if the questioner had a discussion before she asked, or he asked the question. Intent is good. I mean, the law will always look at the intention behind certain acts sometimes. And sometimes it's just the act speaks for itself, really. It is good that grandma has taken the child to give the child better care. But it is not good that grandma knows that they are looking for the child and she's keeping quiet. Her intention may be that if they don't know the child is here with me, all the better, I can take better care of the child. But the law is very clear that you don't have custody or guardianship rights over the child. You don't take the child and deprive the child's natural guardians or parents the right to possession of the child. So even though she may be thinking that she's doing good by taking the child to take care of them, even though she may think that they are not the fit people to have custody of the child, she should not keep the child and not let them know, especially when she knows that they are looking for the child. I think under these circumstances, grandma herself can go to court.
Yes.
And then seek for an order for guardianship or custody. To say that I am biologically connected to this child. The natural parents are not giving the proper care, and therefore the court should give me. Under those circumstances, she can keep the child. But otherwise, no.
I see so much at play.
Yes,
But you go ahead.
I mean, the key thing is that she knows that they are looking for the child. There's a missing
She's
child.
not saying
notice.
anything.
She says they didn't come to her.
But they didn't come to your house. But she's aware. She's aware that they are looking for the child and they are keeping the child, and especially when the child has some difficulty in growth and some health challenges. It's better she discloses immediately to the parents that your child is here and there's a reason why, and find a way of sorting it out, as my colleague said.
For guilt, it's only the court that can decide,
Yes,
make a call as to whether you're guilty or not. But from where I sit, grandma was seeking to save this child's life. This is a child that is helpless at home and neglected. And per our laws, child neglect, especially for a child with an ailment or infirmity, is a criminal offense. So if grandma had gone to the police, parents would be in trouble. But she didn't, probably because she didn't know, or she just cared more about the child's interest, right? At the point that she took the child from there was nobody to even consent. I don't know if grandma has a phone, but I'm trying to defend grandma here, okay?
I can see that.
I am for grandma.
I can see that.
We don't know if grandma has a phone, but it also suggests that grandma has access to the house at any time, unfettered access, because grandma could come into the house and scoop the child and take the child home and nobody raised an eyebrow. Or it means that nobody was there, which makes it worse. So grandma keeps this child, puts the child in a very good place now, and you're looking for your child. My challenge with grandma's cases, at what point did grandma know that they've made a police report? But grandma, being grandma, she's waiting, okay, for them to come to her so that she can show them that I am the adult in the room. They haven't come to grandma, so grandma is holding her peace and waiting for whoever it would be to dare come there. Why haven't they gone to check on grandma to see if grandma has the kid? When you know grandma has access to your house. There are just too many missing pieces in this
good
whole
advocacy,
situation.
Noella. Very good
So
advocacy.
your-
I was waiting for the
The
back.
argument is about, as I said, the law is about the intention.
So the
you-
intention was for grandma to save a life. Grandma didn't want his grandchild, or grandma didn't want her grandchild to die. in hunger and
everybody
everything.
knows. Noella, everybody knows.
We don't know if grandma has fuel or transport money to bring child back.
But she knows they are looking for the
You
child.
haven't come to her house.
And you see, no matter your intention, you should let the person who has possession and custody
Consent to it.
they should know.
Yeah.
They should know that
No,
the
but
child.
if they know, maybe they will let grandma continue to care for the child. So grandma is trying to act in the best interest of this child who clearly needs her to survive.
Well,
But it's
Grandma's
against the law.
intention is not to deprive the parents.
It's against the law.
Because she didn't just go there to pick a fit child who was happily running around the house. Grandma did it to save the child,
It's a good defense to
save
put out.
our children.
Very, very good
Very good
advocacy.
defense to
But,
put out.
grandma might survive because of familial
And intention. Intent. She
the
did not
intent-
intend to
she
deprive.
crossed the line when she didn't tell them. Look, even in school, when you take your child to school, you would have handed over the child to the school authorities during the school hours. If your child gets a temperature, the school should not be able to give the child paracetamol.
They need to
without-
check with you
They
first.
will call the parent.
Yes, and they can't take the child to the hospital.
They will call
or
the
consent
parents.
to that.
If it's urgent, they will call the parent and say, we are taking the child to the hospital.
Do you consent?
A, B, C, D. Do
Where
you
can
consent?
we take the
Can you
child?
come there?
Yeah.
You know, so for grandma, again, is it maternal grandma or paternal?
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. You keep going to this. But what I'm saying is that the intention
is very
should be to deprive the parents of access.
Which she has done.
Grandma's intention was to give the child care.
Which
How
she
do you
did.
prove that she didn't want the parents to have access?
How do
The
you
parents haven't come there and she said,
How
no,
do you
I'm going to keep
the
the
child
kid.
when you know that a police report has been made? That is where she sleeps.
No, when the parents
Be
get
nice
know,
to
they
grandma.
they can give custody to their grandma.
No, but the grandmas
But-
out there, your children are your children. Your grandchildren are your grandchildren. You may have the best intentions, but please. just
We are
let
getting
the-
to the end of the show.
let the
But we
parents
would
know.
do the service to our viewers if we don't just add the last part, which is the temporary possession, where you give your kid to somebody for a specific purpose. I've given my child to you, take her to the mall to buy her a blouse. If you take the child to go and buy cassava, at that point, you are crossing the line.
Or ends up in your house.
Yes. Regardless of what you were trying to do for this child, you need to seek consent to expand the scope of your possession at a given time. The school nurse, without express permission from the parents, cannot just rush a kid to Kolebu. If you're doing that because you couldn't reach the parents, yes, we see some necessity there which might help you. But if the child just has a temperature, you are required to at least put in that effort before you now step up to. But as soon as possible, you need to
Report.
regularize the consent
Report.
bit. So that scope comes in terms of the small or limited access to possession. Can we talk about mistake of law now?
Yeah, so again, 20 issues as are sometimes between parenting and grandma issues, where grandma believes that she is in a better position to take care of the
Yeah.
child, or has. I mean, these are arguments that can be made in court where you think that you had a belief that you had right to custody or access to the child, and you do so. That can be a defense to the offense of child stealing. But I think that
See?
in all the discussions,
Grandma could have a case.
in all the
This is where I was
discussions,
headed.
in all the discussions, the intention of the accused person
Yeah.
is very paramount.
So where it's not targeted mainly at deprivation, but then there is some other justifiable reason, and you believe that you have a right by reason of relationship in a manner that you might be able to slip away, right? But, you know, to be on the right side of the law, just seek consent.
Finally.
Tell this person that, look,
Grandma should.
grandma should say, look, you guys are busy parents. Let me take care of this kid. And the kid can come maybe after school. You can negotiate something. But I mean, if grandma pushes it and sees me, I'm sure
If the parents are difficult and you still think it will be in their best interest,
you go to the police,
go
the
to-
authorities.
or you go to court, seek
Yeah.
custody.
Seek
I mean,
custody. But at the
court
time
can-
they are looking for the child, for God's sake, let them know you have the child. Because not disclosing is where the intent is.
comes.
That you have now stolen the child and you want to keep the child. That is.
Grandma has heard you.
I hope so.
And finally, You cannot tell the court that you did not know the child was under 14 in the situation of child stealing, or under 18 in the case of an abduction, or you didn't know that you were kidnapping the person. You can say you didn't know it was an offense.
Yes, exactly.
Ignorance of the law.
It's not an excuse.
And you can't say that the child gave consent either.
Yes.
You cannot.
A child under
be
14
held to
cannot say, I've seen you, auntie, and I like the fact that your house has more toys.
So I'm coming to stay
So
with you.
I have
So let's
decided to come and live with you. So you go there, you pack the kid up without talking to the parents, and you say, the kid chose me. That wouldn't suffice.
No, not
It's been a very interesting conversation, Counsel. Thank you so much, as always, for coming by the show and for always availing your, services to the show in support of a course based on education and social service. Viewers, I was joined today on the topic of kidnapping, child stealing, and abduction by two fine lawyers, Hanifa Yahya and Richard Kwame Odium. My name is Noella Seydu, and this has been our show.